Hi everyone. I hope you're doing okay. I want to give a short overview of what we offer in natural resources at Front Range, and maybe also just kind of help you understand the differences in some of the terminology that gets kicked around. So I'm going to pull up a Word document here so that I can type and you can see. We'll kind of use this as the whiteboard. The main thing to keep in mind at our institution is that we have a lot of options for you. All right, so you think of community colleges offering 2-year degrees, and so we definitely do that. What we have available are an Associates of Arts, which is an AA, Associates of Arts, and we have an AS, Associates of Science. Now, the main difference here is just what concentration of things that you have to do within each one. Obviously, there's more science in the Associate of Science. Now, these are really what we call our transfer degrees. So if you want to go to a 4-year institution and you're sure of that, you might want to start with an AA or an AS. They are guaranteed to transfer anywhere in the state of Colorado as long as you have a 2.0 GPA or higher. So then you should be able to just transfer that degree in. Now, I highly recommend, if you are transferring to an institution, that you talk with one of our Front Range advisors about which courses will transfer and where. And kind of the general rule of thumb is that you should always kind of start backwards. So if let's pick CSU because it's here, you want to go to CSU. That's great. That's a university. Now you need to figure out what college you want to be in, and that's dependent upon what major you want. So you have a major that's within a department, that's within a college, that's within a university. Now that's kind of a big list of options there, right? So let's say you want to major in wildlife management. So that's in the Wildlife and Fisheries and Conservation Biology or something department at CSU. And that's within the Warner College of Natural Resources within the University of CSU. So you need to start at your department level and say which classes would transfer for that degree. And most colleges list their courses that they are required for their degree on their website. I know CSU does, and they do a nice job with that. Then there's also this website called Transferology. And what it does is it will tell you for an institution which classes it'll accept from other institutions. And Front Range advisors really update that frequently, and other institutions work within that. If it's in Transferology, it's guaranteed to transfer. Now, speaking of guaranteed to transfer, there are a lot of classes that we offer at Front Range that are called GT courses or guaranteed transfer courses. Those are courses that within the state of Colorado at a public institution, they have to accept as transfer credit. Now, even with those, to my knowledge, even with those, they may be able to accept the credit, but it may not apply toward your degree. And this is what gets tricky, is the reason we say start at your, since I'm not using the whiteboard, I'll make this big again. Since I say start at your, work backwards, start at where you're going to transfer to and work backward. That's important because they may take, let's say, our ecology class, but maybe as an elective for that degree and not to replace something that you have to take anyway. So there's the trick, is that they may accept classes, but it may not count toward your degree per se, except as an elective. And you only get so many electives. So at some point, yeah, they'll take it, but it didn't really help you achieve your degree any faster. So the question to ask is, will it replace anything that they require by taking it at Front Range? So those are really good questions to be asking. And we have a fantastic transfer advisor at Front Range, Erin Pitts. Her office is at the end of my office hallway. So when you're back on campus, try and connect with her if you're thinking of transferring to CSU in the future. You can also email her. I'm sure she's got ways to connect in this little disruption this spring. Okay, so that's your Associates of Arts, Associates of Science. That's what you want to do if you're transferring. Now, to be brutally honest, if you are wanting to get a 4-year degree in the shortest amount of time, that's the way you need to go, in the shortest number of classes taken. However, what that will mean is very few of our natural resource classes will count toward a 4-year degree, especially if it's not in a natural resource major. So you got to start thinking about what you want to major in. Now, if you do want to major in natural resources, we have a handful of classes that do count for quite a few different majors at various institutions. And not to throw CSU under the bus, but just because they're in our backyard, they are not necessarily the college I would recommend for some majors. I would recommend them for some majors. I wouldn't recommend them for some majors, and we can have that discussion when it's not being recorded. But there's a lot of other schools out there, University of Wyoming, Colorado Mountain College. We've got a lot of choices here in our Western State University. They have a great program too. So there's a lot of other options of colleges. Don't feel tied to CSU. Okay, so those are your transfer degrees. And then we have a technical degree, and that is where we really fall with our program, and that would be your associates, your AAS, your Associates of Applied Science. This is where our degrees fall. All right, so I'm going to get into different degrees here. We have a forest technology degree, we have a wildlife technology degree, and we have a natural resources degree, which is more general. So all of these are 2-year degrees that are called terminal degrees. They have more applicable hands-on courses within them and less English, math, philosophy courses in them, although there's requirements for all of those other English, math, etc., science credits within each of our degrees. But the goal here is that if you got this AAS degree, at the completion of it, you are qualified for certain jobs, and you could just jump right into the workforce. And we've kind of talked about that, right? You're not going to get as paid as much. There'll be some that you don't qualify because you don't have a 4-year degree, but it is a good way to have that degree if you aren't sure what you want to do. And it does not mean that they won't transfer, and that's important. A lot of the classes that you have to take for this degree are also tied up in this degree. So you can look at the different degrees, what's required for each one. And if you're not sure, maybe start with classes that could go in either direction so you're not wasting time or money. Now, the other thing I want to throw in there is just because you get one of these degrees doesn't mean you can't take some content specific classes here to tack on top of it, or to take as your electives for those degrees, because then that still could benefit you in getting jobs and getting connected and getting that experience early on. And a lot of our 4-year universities, quite frankly, don't offer some of the specific field classes that we offer here. So it might be a benefit to you to try and combine those things. Okay, I'm going to get into the what we call the maps for these degrees in a moment. But the last thing I just want to point out here is that we also have certificates. And certificates can be combined. They can be in addition to one of these degrees or on top of one of these degrees. And we have all kinds of certificates. And these are course groupings of like typically 3 to 4 courses that are specific to one content area. And so I'll go through the different certificates that we offer within our forestry and wildlife program as well. So let's start with, gotta figure out how to pull this over. This is me being techie. Let's start with our maps for our wildlife technology degree. I think a lot of you are interested in the wildlife route. So this is really, it's important to know that these are fairly new for us, and in our program we've been growing quite rapidly, so we're kind of revising and adding to these all the time. I'm going to show you in a different video a program that you should become really familiar with at Front Range called Degree Check, and you'll need to just go with whatever's in your degree check when you choose different degrees, because our maps change, but they hold you to whatever it was when you entered the program. So the current map might not be applicable to you. So this is a fairly recent map that we submitted just this last fall. And the goal here is to give you kind of a guide of which classes to take each semester. So first semester, second, third, and fourth. And obviously not everybody wants to complete a degree in 4 semesters. And that's totally fine, but this just gives you an idea of maybe how to combine some different classes and what you should take before others. So for example, if you're in wildlife, we really would like you to take Colorado Wildlife first, and then take wildlife management second, which is this NRE 205. So you can take them at the same time, but quite frankly, that's really challenging for students and gets kind of confusing. So this kind of helps you see the order that we'd like you to take things in with different degrees. And then we have some approved electives and NRE electives. And the newest maps, which are great, this is a great idea, I think, is to choose from these electives that are recommended in each semester. So depending on kind of what your skill set is. The other thing I want to mention here is that most of you are probably in college for a purpose, right? You really like the wildlife management, or you like fire, or you like animals, whatever it is. Most students tend to lose focus sometimes in their math and their gen ed classes. So I always want to recommend that you don't do what's really tempting, and that's the first couple of semesters at Front Range to take all the natural resource classes, and then your whole second year you're just in general elective classes because you've taken all of our classes. That's a really fun first year, I'll give you that, and we get to know you really well, but then we don't see you, we can't connect you with jobs during your second year, and you're kind of bored and frustrated, and the motivation to continue can really wane. So I recommend 1 or 2, no more than 2, if you can help it. And Shelby, you already are breaking this rule. No more than 2 natural resource classes a semester, unless you're only here for a certificate, which we'll get to in a minute, because this really can make your time at Front Range kind of a drag toward the end if you take them all right away. So, I don't think I actually need to show you every single map because they all kind of say the same things. But check these out. They're also on our homepage, and I have them tied into your course content as well. I do want to pull up the certificates and talk about them real quick. Your certificates that are available in our program is a general natural resource one, a wildlife certificate, so that's our wildlife management, our Colorado wildlife, and then any of these electives. And these are not all of our classes, although it kind of looks like it, so be careful because not every class will count for every certificate. Forestry certificate, Foundations of Forestry and Forestry Field Research, Principles of Outdoor Rec, and Wilderness Ed make up our Natural Resource Recreation certificate, and then an elective Environmental Ed certificate, Wildland Fire certificate. We are changing this one, by the way. We are, I believe, removing fire ecology from this certificate. Stay tuned on that. Because we want this to be more of a firefighting type certificate, and you do not have to take fire ecology for that purpose. Although fire ecology is a great course, you should take it for the forestry certificate or just because you want to learn some really cool stuff. And it transfers to CSU, by the way, for a 300 or 400 level class. Pretty cool. Natural Resource GIS certificate, man, if you were going to do one and done, this is probably the best one to get you a job right away. Okay, so that's our certificate list. You can find these posted in the hallway, but it's also on our website, and I will link that to your D2L page as well. I think that's all to do right now. So I will have some other videos here on some of the other topics within planning out your academic career at Front Range coming up.